Hello, my name is Brian Anderson. This is a video presentation to accompany the paper version of my report for my senior project discussing the foundational concepts of the command line interpreter or command line interface or CLI or command terminal. This presentation will review several of the basic functions that can be performed within the command line. Although just about anything that a computer system is capable of doing can be performed from the command line, the operations that we'll review in this presentation will serve as the more basic functions you'll need to know when you first get started learning how to use the command line. Now, anybody in a computer-related profession or academic pursuit should have at least a basic understanding of the command line because the interface will allow the user to work around any of the operational restrictions programmed into the operating system. Commercial operating systems like Microsoft Windows or Mac OS are programmed to only allow the user to do what the operating system wants the user to be able to do. But if you want to dig deep into the system and modify things such as system settings, user account permissions, operational settings, the platform will tell you that your access is restricted and won't allow you to make any of those changes or alterations. I sometimes like to think of it as buying a package of, say, cookies from a grocery store. Whoever made the cookies has included their own ingredients and their own proportions, and if you want to eat the cookies, you have to accept them the way that they were made, and you can't change anything about them. When you buy a commercial operating system, the developer does all their own programming and designs the system to be used in a way that they want you to use it. The command line will allow you to take your cookies and add or remove ingredients so they taste the way that you want them to taste, or your operating system can perform functions in a way that best suits your needs. So in the paper version of this presentation, when we go through the first couple of commands that we're going to be learning when we are starting to learn how to use the command line interface, we're going to go through commands like how to navigate the file system, viewing the contents of different layers within the files, accessing help within the command line interface, how to create directories, create files, remove files, move and copy files. In the paper version, we'll go through each one of those. I'll show you how to perform a certain function in Windows and then how to perform it in Linux. And we go through function by function. In this video presentation, what I'll do is I'll just start with Windows and then go through all the different functions and then go into Linux and then go through all the same functions again within the other operating system. For Windows, on this computer, what I have is Windows 10, and for my Linux system, because it's such a popular distribution among certified ethical hackers, cyber professionals, penetration testers, I'm going to be using the Kali Linux distribution. So the first thing that we want to talk about is how to even get to the command line. What I've done on my system is right here on the quick launch bar, I've gone ahead and set up a quick launch for the command line interface. So you can just hit that and it pulls right up. If you don't want to have it right there, what you can do is you can just go right here into the quick search and you can type either CMD and it'll pull up command prompt. You hit enter, command prompt comes up. Other than CMD, you can actually type in command and it'll also come up. Another location where you can access it is right here through the window icon. You can go up to, I use it a lot, so I have it right here under my most used. Another place that you can find it is way down here under Windows System, expand Windows System, and it's right there under command prompt. Now what I like to do is when I open up the command prompt, I will open it up and I'll right click on it and go to more, and I'll go ahead and start running it as an administrator. When you're running as an administrator, it allows you to get into every file that's in the system, and it will allow you to make changes to basically any file in the system. So when you're going to run as an administrator, you want to be very careful about what you do. So you can either access the command line within a virtual environment or on a system while you're still learning that you can either easily back up and repair or reload a new image so that you don't mess anything up. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes. And now when it comes up as the administrator command prompt, you see it puts me right into my Windows System 32, and it shows that you've got the we're working out of the C disk drive. As most people know, the C drive is where the operating system will normally be. A recovery partition is usually right here in the D. If you have an E drive, it might be your installed DVD CD player. You can have an E drive, which could be a plugged-in flash drive or a spare storage device. So we're going to be working out of the Windows System 32 when it first comes up as an administrator. Another reason you want to be really careful when you're operating in here as an administrator is if we took a look at everything that was in here, these are all the contents of this Windows System 32. You can see all these DLL files. Those are dynamic link library files, and those contain a lot of the code that the Windows operating system uses to do its basic functions. So as an administrator, you can actually get in here and alter some of these files or delete some of these files, and that'll actually really negatively affect the way that your computer runs. Users might occasionally need to get in there and take a look at what's going on in those DLL files, because there's a lot of threats of viruses being attached or sideloaded to those DLL files, which is a way that they can get into your computer and affect your computer and bypass any sort of antivirus software or firewalls that you may have installed. So it is kind of a threat, those DLL files, but for most users, especially beginning users, you kind of just want to stay out of those. So what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and back all the way out to our C drive. I'm going to do that by typing cd / or change directory, and it brings us all the way out. Now if we want to see what is in our C drive, we can type in the command dir for directory, and it'll list everything that's in here. You see we've got different directories that are installed within the C drive. Here's some actual text files and different programs and directories. So you could tell you right down here you've got 12 files and 14 directories on the C drive. Now one of the directories that we're going to get into is our users directory. So in order to navigate forward a directory, we're going to type in cd change directory and then space and the name of the directory that we want to get into. So we're going to say we want to get into users, and now we have cd : /users. So we want to see what's in there, and again, in order to take a look at what's within a specific directory, we type in the command dir, and it shows us that this one has 10 directories within it. So it's got different users. My personal one here is Brian17. Got a public directory. There's a directory for my son, my wife, and so what we're going to do is we're going to get into our temporary directory. And before we do that, I'm just going to open up a non-administrator version of the command prompt. And when you open it up as a non-administrator, it'll take you right into the directory that you're in. So it pulls up with users and Brian17. So what I want to do is I'm going to back all the way out just like I did before with the command cd /, and it brings me all the way back to the C drive. So we're going to change directory and go into users, and then we're going to take a look and see what's in here. Now I want to get into this JRArt directory, so I'm going to say cd space JRART, and now my access is denied. And the reason that my access is denied is because I'm not running as an administrator, so I can't get into other people's directories. The same thing will show if I try to go into my graphical user interface and go into my users and I try to connect to this. I don't have permission to access this folder because I'm not running it as an administrator. So what we can do is we'll go back, we'll exit out of here. We're going to go back into the command prompt again as an administrator. And another way, you saw earlier I was going cd \, and it brings me all the way back. Say if I just wanted to get rid of the System32 and back out into the C drive with the Windows directory, I could type cd space ... and it'll back up one layer within the file system. Another thing that I can do is if I want to go from C:\Windows to C:\users, I can type in cd \users, and it will change that. And that prevents us from having to actually back all the way out to the C drive and then change directory into users by typing cd space users. So if I want to go into my JR Art, now it allows me access to that directory. So we can take a look at and see what's in that directory by typing in the dir command, and it shows that there's 14 directories within here, and it's the typical directories that you'll see: desktop, documents, links, music, pictures, things like that. Now we're going to go into the directory that we're going to use for basically just playing around within the command line. So we're going to go into our temporary directory, which I've set up just for this video. We'll take a look and see what's inside of here by typing in the dir, and again we just have our normal directories that you'll see within the GUI system. And you come down in here and you see you got your desktop and your downloads and your documents and things like that. So within here, let's go ahead and we'll open up our desktop. So in order to go forward into this directory, again we type cd space desktop, and now we're there. In order to see what's in the desktop, we'll look at directory. So here we have a Word document. You can see that by the name of the document as well as the file extension. It's a .docx, and that indicates that it is a Word document. Also, what we have in here is a folder for notes, and again we can take a look here inside the GUI environment. Go to our user temporary. Okay, so desktop. Alright, so right now you can see again users temporary desktop. We've got our users temporary desktop. So our GUI environment is in the same spot as our command line environment. So we've got our Word document 2, and a folder for notes. Now if I wanted to create another folder and say call it note instead of notes plural, and go back into the command line, and we could say mkdir or make directory. We'll type space and then the name of the folder that we want. Press enter. Now note pops up. We can verify that. We go back in here, we list the contents of the directory with dir. We got note, notes, Word document, and Word document 2. Now if we wanted to make a folder that had a space in the title, let's say we wanted to say notes space 3, we'll make a directory. We'll call it actually let's call this one folder 3. Let's not forget our make directory. Alright, so we got make directory folder space 3. Now that makes a folder called folder and a folder called 3, and that's because we have a space in here. If we wanted to make a folder that actually has a space within the name, then we need to use quotation marks. So we'll say mkdir, and then quote folder space 3, and close our quotes. And now we have folder 3. So now what we can do is, let's go ahead, we're going to erase all of those. So to erase a folder and delete it, we say rmdir for remove a directory, and we're going to remove folder 3 and space, because that's going to give us another option to do this. We're going to remove folder space, we're going to remove 3, and let's go ahead and remove note, since we just made that one. Press enter, and we go back to where we started with just the folder for notes, and then the Word document and Word document 2. Okay, so we know how to make folders, mkdir. We know how to remove folders, rmdir. Now we're going to talk about creating, editing, and removing files. So if we wanted to just create a file right here within our temporary user under the desktop, what I like to do is I just use a command abc, and I'll funnel that in with the right arrow into the name of the file that I want to create. So let's just call it a test file, and we'll go ahead and assign the file extension .txt to make that a text file. Now it tells us right here ABC is not recognized as an internal or external command operable program or batch file, and that's correct, but what it actually does is it still creates that test.txt document. Now if we wanted to open that test.txt document, we'll type test.txt, and it opens up in Notepad as a blank document. And the reason that comes up in Notepad is because the default program that's assigned to .txt documents within the Microsoft system is the Notepad. If we wanted to open up, say, this Word document, alright, so that's Word space document .docx. Let's go ahead and put that in quotation marks because there's a space in there. Close our quotation marks, and it comes up in Microsoft Word. So if we wanted to create a file that did not have a file extension attached to it, and so we wanted to do ABC right arrow and just make this document and call it test. Still creates the document. It doesn't have a file extension attached to it. So if I wanted to open that document, because it doesn't have a file extension, it doesn't know what program you want it to open up in, so it just thinks test is a command. So what we want to actually do is type start test. Now it asks me what program I want to use to go ahead and open up that file. So we're not going to use that test. Let's go ahead and we're going to delete that. So let's say del for delete, test, and test goes away. So again, to make a file, use ABC and the arrow, and follow that with the file name that I want to use. If I'm going to delete that file, use del and then the file name that I want to delete. Now if I wanted to open up a particular application, you just have to type in the name of the application. Now because the Microsoft Windows platform comes automatically installed with the Notepad application as a default text editor, you can just type in Notepad and your notepad will open up, and you can edit, save, create a document there within the notepad. Now, because the applications that are installed with, say, the Microsoft Office suite, Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, may not automatically come as a part of your Windows operating system, use the command start, and let's say start Excel, and Microsoft Excel opens up. And one of the things that you have to remember, although Excel will open up Microsoft Excel, if you wanted to say start Microsoft Word, it's not called Microsoft Word, or it's not called Word. You have to figure out what the operating system calls that particular installed program. For Microsoft Word, it's actually WinWord. So WinWord, and then Microsoft Word will open up. Now, if I wanted to open up one of these files in a particular program, say I wanted to open up this test file, it's a test.txt, so it's just a standard text document. So if I were to just type in test.txt, it's going to open it up in Notepad. However, if I wanted to open it up in Microsoft Word, I can say start WinWord and open up that file test.txt. Excuse me. See, I forgot to put that on here. Another cool little function of the command line is if you mess up a command, you don't want to retype the whole thing, you just hit the up arrow and it'll bring up the last command. You can keep hitting up and it'll keep opening up the most recent commands that you've issued to it. So we're going to go back in and we're going to fix my spelling error, start WinWord, and open up test.txt. So it opens up Microsoft Word, and it opens up that particular file. Now, if I wanted to open up this Word document, but say I wanted to just open it up in the Notepad, I can type in Notepad. These are quotation marks, Word document .docx, and close our quotation marks. And again, if I had just typed in Word document.docx, it recognizes that file extension. It'll open up that file in Microsoft Word. But this time we're indicating that we want that to open up in Notepad. And it opens up in Notepad, and all this gibberish is basically just the difference in code between what Notepad recognizes as a normal text document and what it recognizes as being a document that's actually designed to be opened in Microsoft Word. So that's how you open and close applications. That's how you can open files in different applications. Now, if I wanted to make a copy of, say, this test document, let's go ahead and open this up. And make our changes to this document. We'll go ahead and do that. We're going to save it. And close that out. Now I want to make a copy of this test.txt. We're just going to write copy test.txt. That's the name of the file that I want to copy, and the name of the new file that's going to be copied to. Call it test1, and I'll make it test2.txt. It says right here, one file copied, and now test2 comes up. Now if we were to open up test2, see, exact copy of the first file. Okay, welcome back for part 2. We are going to get into our VMware. We're going to run Kali Linux. Like I said at the beginning of this video, there are a bunch of different distributions of Linux, but I like to use the Kali. I've got this one running on my Microsoft Windows computer, although I do have laptops for Kali, and I have a laptop for Ubuntu, and I have a laptop for Macintosh. We're going to go over the same things that we talked about in the previous video where we went over the Windows command line interpreter. When you open up this distribution, this Kali distribution of Linux, it's really easy to get to the command line. It's just got the little icon right up here. You just click on that, and what it shows you here is the current directory that you're in. And basically, I'm running right now as a root user. Root user is also known as a super user, or it's equivalent in the Windows environment as the administrator. So that's how we actually access the terminal. And to look at our file system to see what's in here, a lot like the dir command that we used in Windows, here if we want to list and see what's inside this current directory, we're going to use ls. So those are the two directories that we have in the main part of our system here. Also in the Windows environment, we would see these appear in the GUI version as folders. So the same way that we did it in Windows, if we wanted to advance into, say, the desktop directory, we just do cd for change directory, space, and then desktop. And it moves us up into desktop. Also, just like in Windows, if we want to retreat one level in the file system, we do cd space ... and it takes us back. So if we want to see, let's go back into our desktop directory. So cd desktop. And notice here that I'm using the capital D. The capitalization is important when you're in the terminal in Linux. I'll show you. Retreat back. Let's go cd. Is going to tell me that there's no such thing as a desktop. It can't change directory into the desktop. It's because there's no desktop that starts with a lowercase d. Alright, so once again, we're going to want to list and see what's in our desktop. Alright, so we've got a folder for apps, a folder for note, and an application called Iceweasel. You can see here we've got our folder for note, a folder for apps, and an application for Iceweasel. And Iceweasel is just an internet browser. It's the default internet browser that comes with the Kali distribution. Alright, so we know how to access the terminal. Just hit it again. And we know how to advance. Do cd space and then type in the name of the folder that you want to use. Or if we want to go back one level, we'll do cd space ... and that'll bring us back. We know how to list the contents of the folder. It's ls, and it tells you what's on here. And notice how it has all these different things side by side. If we wanted to view them in a list, a vertical list, we could type ls space and pipe more. It'll list everything vertically for us. And you notice up here it has apps and note in blue, and it says Iceweasel .desktop. It means it's a shortcut for Iceweasel that's located on the desktop. And these are in blue and this is in green. This indicates that this is a application and that these are folders. When you list them vertically, it just tells you what's in there. If you want to access help inside Kali, first let me just say, if you wanted to clear the screen like we did in Windows, we used CLS for clear screen. A little bit easier in Kali, you just say clear. So if you want to access help in the Kali terminal, you just have to type in help. Pretty straightforward. and it'll show you all the different commands that are possible, at least a portion of them. And we're going to clear our screen again. Alright, so let's make a directory. So we have here on our desktop our folders, right? We've got our apps and our note. Let's make a new one. Just like we did in Windows, mkdir. We're going to make a directory and we're going to call it test. And test pops up. And so now we have that. Change our directory into test. Alright, so it says that now we're in here. And there's nothing in test because we just created it. Let's see, we'll type in list and it doesn't show anything. Alright, so if we wanted to remove a directory, so let's back out to our desktop. I'm going to do that, cd space ... Alright, and once again we'll just list here. See how we've got our folder for test. Now let's say we want to take it away, just like we did in Windows, rmdir test, and test goes away. Another similarity that the Linux terminal has with the Windows terminal, if you have something that has a space, something that's named with a space in the title, you have to insert it in quotation marks. Otherwise, say you have make directory folder 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. There you go. So you got folder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because we used spaces. So if we wanted to say make directory folder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we'll close that in quotation marks. There we go, folder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So again, to get rid of them, just like in Windows, rmdir, we're going to go ahead and put all of these in here. Folder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and folder, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. And they all go away. We'll clear our screen again. Alright, let's open up our note folder. Take a look and see what's in that. Alright, so we've got a file called myfile2 and myfile3. And I want to start from scratch, so let's go ahead and remove myfile2 and myfile3. When we wanted to delete an entire folder, we used rmdir, but because it's just an individual file, we'll just use rm. So remove myfile2.txt, and that one's gone. And we're gonna remove myfile3.txt. So now when we list, we show that this note folder is empty, nothing in it. And let's clear our screen. So we wanted to change the name of this. We don't want to call it note. We want to call it test. What we're going to write in here is we're going to say move, so mv space. Now the name of the old folder, the one that we want to change, note, and then space, and then the name that we want it to turn into, let's call it test. Oh, excuse me. See how we're actually inside of that note folder, so it's telling me that it can't do that because there is no note folder inside the note folder. So we're going to back out. That's cd dots or space ... So now we're back at our desktop. Just like in Windows, if you want to use a command that you had used previously, you can just hit the up arrow and it'll take you through the most recent commands that you've used. MV for move, we're going to move note to test. And it renames it right here, and now it's called test. Now if we want to create a file, let's move back into our test folder. And we're going to create a file inside this test folder. Okay? It's empty right now. Now, just like Windows comes pre-installed with a text editor such as Notepad, Linux distributions also have the same thing. They're normally a little less sophisticated, just like Notepad in Windows is less sophisticated than Microsoft Word, but it does come with a installed text editor. This particular distribution comes with two text editors pre-installed. One of them is called LeafPad and the other one is called VI. It can also be called VIM. It's either VI, it's pronounced VI, or VIM. When I first started using it, I thought it was just called Vim, but the M on it is just an updated version of VI. It stands for VI Improved, and the other application is called LeafPad. And to get to those applications, you can either click on Applications, Accessories. Right down here, we've got the VI. Here's the VI Improved, so it's the newer version of VI. And you also have LeafPad. So they look very similar to each other, but they are two separate applications. So if you want to create a file in VI, you simply have to type in VI and then the name of the file that you want to create. We're going to call this one myfile.txt. Press enter. And it's going to bring up this window that will allow you to actually begin to insert text into the file. The first thing that you have to do is you have to press the I key. That'll allow you to start inserting text. So you can go up here and say, this is my file. You can even press enter and go down to the next line. And when you're done adding text, you hit the escape key. And so the insert down here will go away. Now, in order to save this, you have to use :W, and we want to close this also, so we're going to add Q for quit. So we're going to write and quit the application, and it brings us back to our terminal. So if we go into test, there's my file, and it's going to go ahead and open that up in the application that I used to write it, VIM. This is my file, and this is the second line. Now we created that in VI by typing VI, that's the program that I wanted to create it in, and then the name of the file, txt. If I wanted to write this in LeafPad, or just say the program that I want to use, LeafPad, and then we're going to call this one testfile.txt, and it's going to go ahead and open up the GUI version of LeafPad, and we can go ahead and make our changes to that file. Alright, so let's go ahead and save this, and we're going to exit out of here. Now we want to go back in and make some adjustments to the text that we have in there. We want to go ahead and edit that text. Let's go ahead and open up LeafPad. We're going to open up that same file. Now the first time that we put it in there, we didn't have a LeafPad file called testfile.txt, so it just opened up a blank one for us and allowed us to make our changes. This time when we open up LeafPad testfile.txt, Since we saved our changes, it's already in here. So we can go back in and use the text editor to make additional changes. Now, if we wanted to open up the file that we created in VI, the command that we use is going to be xdg-open, and then space, and then the name of the file. Now it'll open up a GUI version of the myfile.txt, whereas originally when we created this file, we created this within the command prompt. So again, that's xdg-open myfile.txt. Now in Kali, if you want to open up an application, say we just wanted to open up the editing tool VI, or VI Improved, it gives us the information on the particular version, the author of the software, different commands that we can use within it. So again, like I said earlier, the :Q allows us to quit the program, and it'll return us back to our command terminal. If I want to open up LeafPad, and not open up a specific file, but I just want to open up LeafPad, just type in LeafPad, and it opens up. You write whatever you want, save it as whatever file name that you want. Let's go ahead and clear our screen. And say we want to open up a particular application that's on here, like our browser, internet browser, Iceweasel. All we have to do is just type in Iceweasel, and it'll pull it right up. We want to open up Wireshark. Wireshark is a popular network protocol analyzing application. It's going to type in Wireshark, and there it comes. There's our Wireshark application. So again, we want to go in here and delete some files. Let's see, what do we have here in our current location under desktop and test. Let's list it. Alright, so we have my file and testfile.txt. So we want to delete these files. We saw this a moment ago. There's RM for remove. We're going to remove my file.txt, and we can either press enter here and then go back and do rm testfile.txt, or we just put in a space and say we also want to do testfile.txt. We'll list the contents of the test folder, and it's empty. Now we're still inside the test folder, so if I want to go ahead and get rid of that entire folder, I need to back out one, cd space ... back to our desktop. Let's go ahead and remove the test folder. Well, we can't remove the test folder because there's no file named test. It says test is a directory. Okay, so we need to rmdir, remove the directory, test, and it goes away. Alright, so for Kali, we know how to access the terminal, what it looks like. We know how to navigate through the system. We can do cd space and then the name of the folder or directory that we want to move into. Now we're going to move into apps. Oh, excuse me, there's two P's in apps. We can list what's in here, either ls. Again, these are green, so these are all applications that are inside the apps folder. Or if we wanted to see them vertically, ls and space, we use the pipe and the argument more. and it's going to list them all vertically. And again, it's not color coded when you do it vertically like this. Up here it's green. It lets me know that these are applications. When they're blue, they're folders that are within the current directory. It's clear. Let's go back to our desktop so we can go backwards through the file system with just cd dot space space. Alright, we know how to view the contents. That's ls. We know how to access help. Just type in help. We'll get rid of all that extra stuff that we don't want to see. And we want to create a directory. Just like in Windows, mkdir will make a directory. We want to get rid of that directory, rmdir, and then the name of the directory. If you want to create a file, you can either choose to open up the file in VI and space and the name of the file that you want to open, or you can open it up in LeafPad, specify the program that you want to create the file in, and then the name of the file. Now say I wanted to create a file that I didn't assign a file extension to. I just wanted to make a file called test using VI. We're going to call it test. Now it's going to open up this file. It's called test, no file extension. It's going to allow me to go ahead and make my changes. This is a file with no extension. Now notice I forgot to type I to show that I wanted to start inserting text. So it let me hit T and H, and then as soon as I hit I, it started writing. So it's very important to remember to go ahead and hit I as soon as you want to start inserting text. Alright, and so when we're done, we're going to hit escape, and then colon, and WQ because I want it to write, and quit. So when it writes, it's going to actually save this document. And there it shows up. So this file called test does not have an extension on it. So if I wanted to open it and I just hit test, it's not going to do anything. It doesn't know what to do with it because it doesn't have a file extension. So I would have to tell it that I want it to open up in LeafPad the file named test, and it'll go ahead and do that. I could say I wanted to open it up in VI, and it'll go ahead and do that. Let's hit I, say that we wanted to go ahead and add some more text. Alright, let's go ahead and be done with that. So we're going to hit escape, colon, write and quit, enter, and it brings us back up to our desktop. And let's just take a look here. We're going to go back into LeafPad and look at the file test. And again, we want to get rid of that, so we're just going to say rm for remove and test. Alright, let's clear our screen. We're going to create one more file just to show another function. Let's go ahead and do it in LeafPad. By the power of Grayskull. We're going to call this Again, just let's call it my file 1. We'll go ahead and assign it as a text document. Alright, so it's going to let me go in here and and we're going to save that. We want to make a copy of my file 1.txt. We're just going to give it a different name. In Windows, we use the command copy, but in Kali, we're just going to do cp for copy. We're going to copy my file 1.txt, and we're going to copy it into a file called myfile2.txt, and that's done. And now we have a copy of my file 1 and my file 2. Now if we wanted to change the name of my file 2 without actually having to make a copy of it, we could just say move my file 2.txt, and then write the new name of the file, myfile3.txt, and it just takes away 2 and makes it number 3. Let's clear out. Okay, so we've covered how to navigate through the file system, how to view the contents of what's in the file system, getting to help, how to create a directory, how to remove a directory, opening files, creating files, deleting files, moving files and renaming files, as well as editing and the different installed applications that come preloaded within the distribution. Now, it's important to remember that, as I mentioned in the introduction, while any sort of processing that the computer needs to perform, things like accessing files and file locations, creating and removing files, launching software applications, can all be done from within the command line. Now, if you're trying to create, say, a written document for a presentation or a spreadsheet that can be shared with a coworker, you'll want to use a software application like Microsoft Word or Excel. So it's not uncommon to use the command line in combination with the GUI applications, but some may ask, why use the command line at all if you have to use GUI software as well? The best answer I've come up with personally is that it's fun. But as I said in the introduction, it's always beneficial for any cybersecurity or computer science professional or student to understand the basic concepts of the command line and how it works. And speaking of basic concepts, you may have noticed that when we were looking at the options available in the help menus in both the Windows and the Linux command terminals, that there's really a lot of commands that can be used, but the ones that we learned in this presentation really represent the core functions that someone would want to master when first learning how to use the command line. So dig in, play around, and have fun.